The bond between Darius Wells and Titan, his 3-year-old Belgian Malinois rescue, was forged in shared purpose and quiet understanding. Titan, with his intelligent eyes and calm demeanor, was more than a pet. He was a partner, a testament to resilience. Darius had recently moved to the suburban haven of Oakhaven Meadows, hoping for a peaceful environment where he could continue Titan's specialized training and his own quiet work. His fenced backyard was their sanctuary. That sanctuary was violated on a crisp autumn morning. Frank Donnelly, the portly and officious president of the Oakhaven Meadows HOA, stood at Darius's fence line, his face a mask of disapproval. Beside him was a nervous-looking young man from a local critter control service holding a catchpole. "Mr. Wells," Frank boomed, his voice loud enough to carry across several yards. "We've had multiple complaints about this animal of yours. It's clearly a dangerous breed, a menace to our children and pets. The HOA has decided it needs to be removed immediately." Darius, who had been working with Titan on advanced scent detection exercises in the yard, straightened up, his expression calm but firm. Titan sat patiently by his side, alert but perfectly still. "Good morning, Mr. Donnelly. Titan is a highly trained rescue dog, not a menace. He's never shown aggression to anyone. What complaints are you referring to?" "Complaints of it looking vicious," Frank sputtered. "Complaints of it barking. This isn't a junkyard, Wells. This is a respectable community. We have rules about dangerous animals. The critter guy is here to take it away. Cooperate, and there'll be no further trouble." The critter guy looked deeply uncomfortable, especially as Titan met his gaze with a steady, intelligent stare. "Sir," Darius said, his voice like ice, "you are not taking my dog. He is on my private property, and he is not dangerous. You are trespassing and attempting to illegally seize my animal." Frank's face turned puce. "Trespassing? I am the HOA president. I am ensuring community safety. If you don't surrender that beast, we'll declare it a feral stray and have the county deal with you both." He gestured for the critter catcher to advance. The young man took a hesitant step, and Titan, on a silent command from Darius, a subtle hand gesture Frank missed, let out a single deep, controlled bark that made the catcher jump back a foot. "See? Vicious!" Frank shrieked, though Titan had done nothing but obey. "This is your last warning, Wells." He stormed off, dragging the reluctant catcher with him. This was just the beginning of Frank Donnelly's crusade. He launched a campaign of fear and misinformation against Darius and Titan. Loudspeaker announcements became a daily torment. "Attention, Oakhaven Meadows. Be aware of an aggressive, unlicensed animal on Hemlock Drive. Keep your children indoors. This owner is irresponsible and endangering us all." He'd conveniently omit that Titan was always securely in Darius's fenced yard or on a leash. Then came the outright lies. Frank started spreading rumors that Titan had lunged at little Timmy from down the street. Timmy's mother later privately apologized to Darius, saying Timmy had actually poked a stick through the fence at Titan, who had simply barked once. He claimed Titan had killed Mrs. Henderson's prize-winning poodle. Mrs. Henderson's poodle was alive and well, albeit yappy, and had never been near Darius's yard. But fear is a powerful motivator, and Frank was an expert at stoking it. Humiliating videos appeared on the HOA's Facebook page. One showed Titan barking at a squirrel in his own yard, with Frank's voiceover, "See the unprovoked aggression of this dangerous beast. Imagine if this were your child." Another was a blurry shot of Darius calmly walking Titan on a leash, described as the irresponsible owner parading his weapon through our streets. The comments were a torrent of ignorant fear and racist vitriol. "Shoot that dog. People like him always have dangerous animals. Get them both out of our neighborhood." Some neighbors, whipped into a frenzy by Frank's rhetoric, began their own harassment. Stones were thrown into Darius's yard, presumably to provoke Titan. Trash appeared on his lawn. He'd hear shouts of, "Get that killer dog out of here," when he was in his yard. Two women gossiped loudly as he passed them on the sidewalk. "Is that dog really as dangerous as Frank says?" one asked. "Oh, absolutely," the other replied with certainty. "Frank knows best. He saw it try to bite a mailman. They should just call the dog warden and have it put down." Darius, a man who had faced far more dangerous situations in his career, met these provocations with a steely calm that infuriated Frank even more. He meticulously documented everything: the loudspeaker rants, the online slander, the objects thrown into his yard. He installed high-resolution security cameras. He also spent hours with Titan, reinforcing his desensitization training, ensuring the dog remained calm and unresponsive to the neighborhood's hostility. The bond between them only deepened. Sometimes neighbors would see Darius working with Titan in the yard, using specialized harnesses, scent kits, and obstacle courses. They'd see Titan perform complex tasks with incredible focus and precision, responding to Darius's quiet commands and subtle hand signals. Frank and his spies, like Mr. Gable from across the street, would report these activities with alarm. "He's training it to be an attack dog, Frank," Gable would whisper conspiratorially. "I saw him making it jump over things and sniff out packages. He's probably using it for something illegal. Drugs, maybe." Frank would nod gravely, adding "training of a dangerous weapon" to his mental list of Darius's offenses. He had no idea he was witnessing a highly decorated military working dog trainer keeping his partner's skills sharp. The final straw for Frank was when he saw a delivery truck leave a large, official-looking crate at Darius's house. The crate had military-style stenciling on it. It contained advanced veterinary diagnostic equipment Darius had ordered for his specialized work. Frank was convinced it was a cage for a new, even more dangerous animal, or perhaps weapons. He immediately convened an emergency HOA board meeting. The result was a formal, threatening letter delivered to Darius by a smirking Frank himself. It declared Titan an uninsurable public menace, and Darius a negligent and irresponsible homeowner in violation of multiple HOA covenants. It demanded the immediate and permanent removal of Titan from Oakhaven Meadows within 48 hours. Failure to comply, the letter stated, would result in the HOA forcibly entering his property with county animal control to seize the dog, imposing daily fines of $500, and initiating legal proceedings to foreclose on Darius's home to cover all damages and community endangerment costs. Foreclosure. Over a well-behaved rescue dog, because of one man's prejudice and lies. Darius read the letter, his face a mask of cold, controlled anger. He looked at Titan, who rested his head on Darius's knee, his intelligent eyes full of trust. This wasn't just an attack on him. It was an attack on a loyal, sentient being who had already been through so much. "Mr. Donnelly," Darius said, his voice quiet but carrying an unmistakable weight, "you are making a very grave error. You are overstepping your authority in a way you will come to regret profoundly." Frank just laughed. "Threats, Wells? Is that all you've got? Your time is up. That beast is leaving Oakhaven, one way or another, and you might just follow it." Frank Donnelly had no idea. He had no idea that the irresponsible pet owner he was hounding was one of the country's leading veterinary specialists in canine trauma and rehabilitation. He had no idea that Titan the Menace was a decorated search and rescue hero. He had no idea he was about to unleash a storm of legal, ethical, and public relations fury that would tear his petty little kingdom apart. The leash of justice was about to be firmly, irrevocably tightened. The 48-hour ultimatum passed. Titan remained securely in Darius Wells' yard, a picture of calm obedience, often seen playing quietly with a well-worn Kong toy or resting in a patch of sun. Darius, far from cowering, sent a formally worded, registered letter to Frank Donnelly in the Oakhaven Meadows HOA. It stated unequivocally that Titan was a well-behaved, legally owned animal on private property, that any attempt to forcibly enter his property or seize his dog would be met with the full force of the law, including claims for damages, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. He also enclosed a copy of Titan's perfect veterinary health record and his county registration tag. Frank Donnelly received the letter and flew into a rage. "Defiance!" he shrieked at the emergency HOA board meeting he convened that evening. "This man, this Wells, he's openly defying us. He's a dangerous radical. He thinks he's above our rules. This isn't just about a dog anymore. This is about upholding the authority of this homeowners association." His board, a mix of his staunch supporters and a few intimidated fence-sitters, nodded nervously. Frank, now obsessed, made it his personal mission to get Titan removed. He began a relentless campaign of calling county animal control, each call more exaggerated than the last. "My animal control officer," he'd begin, his voice dripping with false urgency. "I'm reporting a vicious animal, a Belgian Malinois on Hemlock Drive, lunging at children. It's a ticking time bomb." The first few times, animal control officers would arrive, observe Titan calmly sitting in his yard or walking politely on a leash with Darius, find no evidence of aggression, and leave, much to Frank's fury. Darius always met them politely, professionally, providing Titan's records and even demonstrating Titan's advanced obedience training. "He seems like a very well-trained dog, Mr. Wells," one officer commented, impressed, before advising Frank that they couldn't act without cause. These failed attempts only made Frank more determined and devious. He started organizing neighborhood dog safety patrols, essentially groups of his supporters, led by the overzealous Mr. Gable, who would march past Darius's house at all hours, often making loud noises, banging on the fence, or shining bright flashlights into the yard at night, clearly trying to provoke Titan into a reaction they could film. Titan, thanks to Darius's constant, patient counterconditioning, usually just watched them with a calm, curious tilt of his head, which infuriated them even more. "Look at it," Mr. Gable would exclaim. "It's unnatural how calm it is. It's probably drugged or waiting to pounce." The online smear campaign intensified. Frank posted blurry videos, often taken in poor light, that he claimed showed Titan stalking passersby. Titan was usually just watching from his own yard, or behaving erratically. He solicited eyewitness accounts of Titan's supposed aggression, and several of his cronies eagerly obliged with fabricated stories. "That beast cornered my poor Fifi," one woman wrote, neglecting to mention Fifi was a notoriously aggressive miniature poodle who had actually tried to bite Titan through the fence. The HOA's Facebook page became a hub of anti-Titan hysteria, with Frank fanning the flames, portraying himself as the sole protector of Oak Haven Meadows against this canine menace and its irresponsible, law-defying owner. The daily fines for failure to comply with dog removal order also began arriving in Darius's mailbox, each one larger than the last. Darius, amidst this siege, remained a pillar of calm, though inside a cold, righteous anger was building. His primary concern was Titan's well-being. He increased their desensitization exercises, ensuring Titan associated the outside harassment with positive reinforcement from him. He also meticulously documented every incident with his upgraded security cameras, which captured crystal-clear footage of the provocations, the trespassing attempts at his fence line, and the neighbors throwing objects. The hints of Darius's true profession and Titan's extraordinary background continued to be comically, tragically misinterpreted by Frank and his informants. One afternoon, Darius was in his yard, performing a routine veterinary check on Titan, examining his teeth, checking his ears, palpating his abdomen with skilled hands. He administered Titan's monthly heartworm preventative. Mr. Gable, peering through a gap in his curtains, reported breathlessly to Frank, "He's doing something to the dog, Frank," sticking things in its mouth, poking it. "He's probably injecting it with steroids to make it more vicious. Or maybe he's trying to hide that it's sick with rabies." Frank immediately called animal control again, claiming the dog was now foaming at the mouth and exhibiting signs of advanced rabies. Another exasperated officer arrived, found a perfectly healthy Titan, and gave Frank a stern warning about filing false reports. A few days later, a military surplus vehicle, driven by a man in a veteran's cap, one of Darius's old Army buddies, Sergeant Miller, who often collaborated with him on rehabilitating traumatized service dogs, pulled up to Darius's house. Miller was there to drop off some specialized training harnesses and discuss a new canine PTSD treatment protocol Darius was developing. Frank, seeing the vehicle and Miller's no-nonsense demeanor, was convinced. "He's got military connections," he whispered to the HOA board. "He's not just a troublemaker, he's probably some kind of government operative, using that dog for secret, dangerous missions. This is bigger than we thought. He's a threat to national security." This new wild theory actually gained traction among Frank's more paranoid supporters. Darius, during a brief, forced conversation with a now skeptical animal control supervisor, Frank had insisted on meeting, mentioned Titan's exemplary service record in high-stress environments. Frank, who was present, scoffed. Service record? What service? Delivering papers? This man is delusional. He invents these fantasies to cover for the fact that he's harboring a dangerous animal. He had no idea Darius was referring to Titan's multiple successful search and rescue deployments in disaster zones, work for which the dog had received commendations. The constant stress was undeniable, but Darius channeled it. When not directly dealing with HOA harassment or caring for Titan, he was on his laptop, not just documenting, but preparing. He was in contact with legal experts from national animal welfare organizations, providing them with a steadily growing file of evidence. Videos, signed affidavits from the few sympathetic neighbors who were too scared to speak out publicly, copies of the HOA's threatening letters, and Frank's slanderous online posts. He was also researching Oak Haven Meadows HOA's articles of incorporation, their insurance policies, and Frank Donnelly's history as HOA president, uncovering a pattern of autocratic behavior and questionable decision-making. The peak of Frank's direct assault came one Saturday morning. Frustrated that county animal control was no longer taking his call seriously, Frank, accompanied by Mr. Gable and two other large, thuggish-looking men he'd apparently hired as HOA security consultants, appeared at Darius's front gate. One of the hired men carried a heavy-duty net and a snare pole. "Wells," Frank bellowed, rattling the gate. "Your time is up. We have an emergency HOA order here, signed by the board, authorizing the immediate seizure of the dangerous animal on this property. Open this gate, or we will cut it open." He waved a piece of paper that looked official, but was, in reality, something he'd typed up himself and had his cowed board members sign under duress. Darius came to the gate, Titan calmly at his heel, though the dog's ears were pricked, sensing the tension. "Mr. Donnelly," Darius said, his voice devoid of fear, "that document has no legal authority. You are not officers of the law. If you attempt to force entry onto my property or harm my dog, you will be committing several serious felonies, including trespass, attempted animal cruelty, and assault. I have you and your hired help on multiple high-definition cameras. I strongly advise you to leave. Now." The hired men looked uncertain, glancing at each other. Frank, however, was incandescent with rage. "Felonies? You're threatening me, you vagrant? After all you've done to this neighborhood? This is your last chance. Surrender the dog." He rattled the gate again. Darius simply stood his ground. "This is my property. This is my companion. You will not take him." He then looked directly at the hired men. "And as for you, gentlemen, be aware that injuring a documented service and rescue animal, which Titan is, carries enhanced penalties. I suggest you consider who you're taking orders from." The mention of service and rescue animal seemed to give even Frank a momentary pause, though he quickly dismissed it. "Lies, more lies. He's not a service animal. He's a menace." But the hired men were now looking distinctly uneasy. One of them muttered to Frank, "Look, mister, if this dog is some kind of official animal, we ain't touching it. We were told it was a stray." Frank, seeing his show of force crumbling, was furious. "He's lying to you. Don't listen to him. Get that dog." But his hired muscle was backing away. Defeated for the moment, but vowing retribution, Frank stormed off, dragging a now very reluctant Mr. Gable with him. "This isn't over, Wells," he screamed over his shoulder. "I'll have the full force of the county here. You and that beast will be gone by Monday." Darius watched them go, a grim expression on his face. He knew Frank was bluffing about Monday, but he also knew Frank was desperate and capable of almost anything. He knelt and stroked Titan's head. "It's okay, boy," he murmured. "We're almost there." He looked up at his security cameras, then back at his house. Frank wanted a showdown. Frank wanted to bring the full force of the county. Darius Wells was more than ready to meet them, and he was about to bring a force of his own that Frank Donnelly could not possibly comprehend. The stage for the final confrontation, right there in his own front yard, was being set. The deadline had passed, and Frank Donnelly, true to his word, was back. And he wasn't alone. A county animal control vehicle pulled up in front of Darius Wells's house, its lights discreetly flashing. Frank, looking triumphant and vindictive, emerged from his own car, waving a sheaf of papers he claimed was an emergency seizure order. A small crowd of nervous, curious neighbors gathered at a safe distance, whispering. Mrs. Gable was there, of course, looking thrilled. "Wells!" Frank bellowed, striding towards Darius's front gate, the animal control officer, a young woman named Officer Miller, following him with a visible lack of enthusiasm. "Your time is up. We are here under official county authority to remove that dangerous animal from these premises. Open this gate immediately, or we will force entry." Darius stepped out onto his porch, Titan by his side, on a leash, calm and alert. Darius himself was a picture of composure, though his eyes held a steely glint. "Mr. Donnelly, Officer Miller," he said, his voice even, "there is no legal basis for you to seize my dog. He is not dangerous. He is on private property, and this order you have, Mr. Donnelly, is likely based on false and malicious reports you yourself have filed." Frank scoffed. "False reports? This animal is a menace. Are you keeping a rabid dog, Wells? Is that why you're so desperate to hide it?" He turned to Officer Miller. "Officer, do your duty. This man is obstructing justice." Officer Miller looked uneasy. "Sir," she said to Darius, "I have a report here citing multiple complaints of aggression and an alleged bite incident involving a child." "Allegations fabricated by Mr. Donnelly," Darius stated calmly. "Before you take any action that you will undoubtedly regret, officer, and before you, Mr. Donnelly, compound your already numerous legal liabilities, perhaps you should understand exactly who you are dealing with." He held up a hand. "And more importantly, who he is." He gestured to Titan. From his pocket, Darius produced a small, distinguished-looking medal. A bronze star, but not one for human valor. It was a K-9 Commendation Medal from the Department of Defense. He held it out. "This is one of several commendations Titan has received for exemplary service and bravery in active combat zones." Frank just sneered. "Trinkets and lies, that means nothing." Darius ignored him and addressed Officer Miller. "I am Dr. Darius Well," he said, his voice taking on a new level of authority. "Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, with a specialization in combat canine trauma and advanced working dog rehabilitation. I have served as a lead veterinary consultant to multiple branches of the U.S. military." He then took out a tablet from a bag near the door. "And this," he said, tapping the screen, "is Titan." He turned the tablet so Officer Miller and Frank could see. It played a professionally edited video montage. Titan, younger, leaner, wearing a tactical harness, fearlessly navigating smoke-filled rubble in what was clearly a war-torn environment. Titan locating a trapped injured soldier, his barks leading rescuers to the spot. Titan comforting a crying child in the aftermath of a disaster. Titan receiving his commendation medal alongside his uniformed handler. The final frame was a list. Titan K9 Unit 7. Deployments, Afghanistan 3, Iraq 2, Domestic Disaster Relief 4. Confirmed live finds 53. Wounded in action twice. Officer Miller gasped, her eyes wide with astonishment and dawning respect as she looked at the calm Malinois sitting by Darius's side. The gathered neighbors murmured in disbelief. "The dog saved soldiers?" one whispered. Frank Donnelly's face had gone from smug triumph to a sickly greenish pale. He was trembling. "The menaces you have been terrorizing, Mr. Donnelly," Darius continued, his voice like cold steel. "The beast you have incited your neighbors to throw stones at, the hero you have tried to have destroyed, is a decorated military working dog who has saved more lives than you've had hot dinners. He retired with honors due to injuries sustained protecting his platoon from an IED. His aggression is a finely tuned protective instinct that kept soldiers alive. His barking was often a signal that he had found someone alive." Just then, 2 more vehicles pulled up. These were not county animal control. They bore the prominent logo of the ASPCA's National Cruelty Investigation Unit. Several individuals in official ASPCA windbreakers emerged, looking grim and determined, carrying clipboards and cameras. "And while you, Mr. Donnelly," Darius said, his gaze locking on to the now terrified HOA president, "have been busy manufacturing lies and inciting hatred against this animal and myself, I have been meticulously documenting your campaign of harassment, your incitement to animal cruelty, your repeated attempts to illegally seize and endanger a protected class of service animal, and your HOA's gross negligence. That comprehensive file of evidence, including hours of video footage from my security cameras showing your direct actions and those of your associates, has been provided to the ASPCA and other relevant authorities. The lead ASPCA investigator, a stern-faced woman, stepped forward. "Mr. Frank Donnelly?" she asked, though it was clearly a statement. "We are from the ASPCA's anti-cruelty group. We have reviewed extensive evidence indicating a pattern of animal harassment, incitement to cruelty, and conspiracy to illegally seize and potentially harm a documented service and rescue animal. We also have evidence of bylaw violations pertaining to animal welfare within your HOA. You are being placed under arrest for these alleged offenses." Frank let out a strangled cry. "No! This is a lie. He's a vet, so what? The dog is still dangerous. You can't arrest me. I'm the president." He looked wildly around, but his former supporters in the crowd were now staring at him with horror and contempt. "He's a hero dog?" Mrs. Gable whispered, aghast. "Oh, Frank, what have you done? You are well and truly doomed." As the ASPCA officers calmly handcuffed a now blubbering and incoherent Frank Donnelly, Darius knelt beside Titan, who gently licked his hand. He looked up at the stunned neighbors, then at Officer Miller, who simply shook her head in disbelief at Frank's actions. "Titan has dedicated his life to protecting and serving humans," Darius said, his voice clear and strong. "All he asked for in return was a peaceful place to live out his days. You met his unwavering loyalty with ignorance, fear, and cruelty." He stood, his gaze sweeping over them. "Justice, it seems, always finds a way to protect our most loyal and steadfast friends." The crowd was silent. Then a few tentative claps began, quickly swelling into a wave of applause. Not for Frank, but for Darius and the noble animal at his side. The legal and public fallout for Frank Donnelly and the Oak Haven Meadows HOA was catastrophic. Frank was convicted on multiple counts of animal cruelty, harassment, and misusing his HOA authority. He received a jail sentence and a lifetime ban from owning animals or serving on any community board. The HOA was hit with a massive lawsuit from Darius, resulting in a $2 million settlement, its insurance revoked, and its eventual dissolution under a cloud of scandal and debt. The videos Frank had posted to slander Titan were now reshared globally, this time with captions celebrating Titan's heroism and condemning Frank's despicable actions, reaching over 40 million views. Dr. Darius Wells, with the settlement funds and additional grants from grateful military charities, established the Wells Warrior Dog Rescue and Rehabilitation Camp. It became a sanctuary for retired military working dogs, traumatized rescue animals, and a training center for the next generation of service dogs and veterinary specialists in canine behavior. He also produced an award-winning documentary, The Loyal Heart, showcasing the incredible contributions of dogs like Titan, with all proceeds funding animal welfare initiatives. And of course, former members of the Oak Haven Meadows HOA, who had actively participated in the harassment campaign, were explicitly barred from adopting from, volunteering at, or donating to the Wells camp. The final scene, a year later, Frank Donnelly, having served his time, is now fulfilling court-ordered community service at a noisy, underfunded county animal shelter. He's miserably scrubbing out kennels, dogs barking incessantly around him. He looks defeated, haunted by the constant sound. He glances up at a small, flickering TV in the shelter office. On the screen, Dr. Darius Wells, smiling, is at the joyful opening ceremony of a new wing at the Wells Rescue Camp, surrounded by happy dogs and their new families. "These incredible animals are more than just pets," Darius is saying to the crowd. "They are our partners, our protectors, our silent heroes. They offer us unwavering loyalty and unconditional love. To betray that trust, to cause them harm, is to diminish our own humanity. We must always strive to be the person our dogs believe us to be." The camera pans from Frank's wretched face to the bright, welcoming sign above the entrance to the Wells Rescue Camp. It reads, "Wells Rescue Camp, Loyal Justice." The imagined audience would be on its feet cheering. "That's what you call veterinarian's vengeance." Titan for mayor. Frank got the kennel life he deserved. The justice was not just served. It was loyal, profound, and deeply satisfying.